From TomDispatch.com, I'm Timothy McBain, and I'm thrilled to be bringing you a very special episode of TomCast. MIT professor and foreign policy expert Noam Chomsky was kind enough to allow Tom Dispatch to publish an excerpt from his latest work, Hopes and Prospects, which comes out this week from Haymarket Books. He also spent time with me discussing Israel and international law. I began by asking him for his thoughts on the speculations about an Israeli military attack on Iran.
Well, Israel's certainly talking about it, and in fact, the U.S. itself is making very visible moves to indicate to Iran that an attack is being planned. So Obama has shipped massive ordnance penetrators, bunker busters, to Diego Garcia, the main base for bombing in the region. These are, of course, intended for Iran. And in fact, that program, though it started under Bush, languished, and Obama quickly accelerated it when he came in. It's now being advanced, deployed several years before it was intended. And in fact, you can hardly read the newspapers without seeing an example. So a couple of days ago, there was a front-page article in the Times on super weapons that are being contemplated. I'm sure you saw it. Weapons that will have something like the effect of nuclear weapons, so they're non-nuclear, that can be sent within an hour under anywhere they want to go in the world and so on. But the one comment that was made about it, intended for the ears of Iran, is that these weapons could go straight up the Persian Gulf and then turn towards their target. Okay, that's telling Iran, we got you in our bomb sights. And in fact, that's over and over again. Will they do it? I don't think the United States would do it. Just about everyone who, in the military command or in strategic analysis or intelligence, is warning against it. Would Israel do it? They're hard to predict. The state is in the hands of ultranationalist tendencies with a lot of paranoia. Their own more sensible commentators, in fact, even the defense minister, are warning against it. But steps that are taken have a way of getting out of control. It wouldn't be easy for Israel to do it. If they did it by air, they would have to fly over a territory that's either U.S. controlled or U.S. allies. If they could conceivably use their nuclear submarines, which they got from Germany, which are deployed, sometimes deployed, maybe now in the Gulf, in the Persian Gulf. I don't have any judgment about the technical feasibility of that, but I think they're just kind of unpredictable. I mean, the U.S. has been holding them on a pretty tight rein, but maybe Obama would loosen the rein, or maybe they would just do it anyway. I doubt it, but it's conceivable.
If they did act on their own without U.S. support, what do you think the ramifications of that would be? Could that even possibly encourage the U.S. to start breaking some of these ties with Israel? Or?
I think that's very unlikely. I mean, if they do it, the U.S. will take the brunt of the response. I mean, Iran's reaction is likely to be in the neighboring countries, in Iraq and Afghanistan, where they have substantial amount of support and various assets. They could presumably use those to undermine the U.S. actions there. For example, in Afghanistan, they're quite influential in around Herat. It's one of the rare parts of Afghanistan that's actually functioning, and no one knows what they could do. In Iraq, of course, they have supporters, substantial ones. They're the main victor of the U.S. invasion of Iraq. They might try to close the Gulf of Hormuz. I don't know whether that's technically feasible or whether they'd even try. That would cut off a lot of the flow of oil. In fact, if Israel did bomb, it's not unlikely that the consequences would simply draw the United States in, just in reaction to whatever Iran does in response. But, these things are totally unpredictable. And once you start sending off missiles, you don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Okay, well, the article that's appearing at Tom Dispatch focuses on the two-state solution to the Israel-Palestine conflict, which has for a long time been widely promoted as the only reasonable solution. However, I feel that recently the discussion has been shifting, and more frequently I'm hearing people state very strongly that there is no possibility of a two-state solution. The only answer is a single state where all inhabitants have equal citizenship and equal rights. How much traction does this idea actually have, and what's your opinion?
Well, there are two questions. One is it desirable, and two is what's the traction? As for desirability, it's been my view for 70 years, and I've been writing about it extensively. There was a period from 1967 to 1975 when it was actually feasible, and I wrote about it then, books, articles, and so on. And in fact, something similar was even proposed by Israeli military intelligence, some grant of autonomy to the occupied territories, which would be maybe a move towards some kind of federalism. Then it was just anathema. I mean, nobody even you couldn't talk about it without being bitterly denounced by everyone. By the late 90s, and it became a topic that you could discuss. And it was not just, I suspect, because it's not feasible. So therefore it helps to undermine the possibility of the U.S. joining the international consensus, which would mean a two-state settlement. Anyhow, it became, whatever the explanation, you could write articles about it in the New York Times and New York Review of Books, and as you say, it became a common topic and so on. And it's totally unfeasible. There's no support for it anywhere, which I suspect is part of the reason for its acceptability. I mean, you can still propose it as a goal that should be attained, but we have to make a distinction between proposal and advocacy. I mean, we can propose that everyone ought to live in peace. That's fine. Nice slogan. It rises to the level of advocacy when you say how we get from here to there. And those who propose this don't rise to the level of advocacy. There's only one way to get there that I've ever heard of, and that's to begin with a two-state settlement, hope that the cycle of violence will decline, that hostilities will decline, and that the two communities will slowly establish relations, commercial, cultural, and so on, and recognize what I've always believed since childhood, that the only acceptable outcome for all of them is to integrate in some fashion, federalism or something else. If there's another form of advocacy, I haven't heard it. Now, what you read about this is based on serious illusions. I think maybe they're mentioned in the article, I've forgotten. The assumption generally is that there are two possibilities, either a two-state solution or Israel takes it all over and it's one state, and then you have a civil rights anti-apartheid struggle. And many Palestinians and supporters of the Palestinians say the second is better than the first. The trouble is the second isn't an option. There are actually three possibilities. One is the international consensus on a two-state settlement, which is feasible. All that's basically required is for the U.S. to accept it, as it basically did in 2001 in Taba, Egypt. The other possibility is that the one that's discussed, that Israel will take everything over, but there's absolutely no reason why the U.S. and Israel should ever agree to that. They don't want to take control of the Palestinians. And the third option is that Israel and the United States will continue doing exactly what they're doing right now. namely taking over whatever is valuable in the West Bank and leaving out the Palestinians, who can be left off in unviable cantons, what Ariel Sharon, the architect of the settlement policy, called Bantustans, and Israel have no responsibility for them. They won't be within the regions that Israel will take over. There won't be any demographic problem. There won't be any apartheid struggle. And there won't be any hope for Palestinian rights.